last words. Ready when you.
All right, we're back. John Elite. Hit the subscribe button. Follow the shows. The Epstein show was last week. Part 2. Follow that. Part 3 will be coming up. And I got some friends on who guessed, and we're going to dive into it. But this, follow us. Actually, me and you both did a show that's coming out in Italy October 27th. Watch that show. And that'll be on Rod 3. And I have another film coming out, Pony. Everybody knows that I'll be starting that soon. I'll be back in Kosovo for the people in Europe. I'll be out there in 2 weeks, and we'll be filming. So I'll make a stop in Denmark. I'll stop in Switzerland, and I'll see people out on the road there. I'll be doing some TV interviews. Anyway, it's nice to see you again.
Hi, Andrea Giovino. I'm on Instagram at Andrea Giovino. I also have my own podcast on YouTube, Andrea Giovino 1, and the only female in this genre of organized crime, mafia stuff. So I go back with John a long time. We know each other a long time, and you're talking about the real deal here.
It was a long time coming.
Yeah, the real deal with crime. And
well, I got to cut you. You had Mark Ryder call before he passed when you were on the show.
Yes, I did. John
After
Livia.
Somebody said you didn't.
People tried to question my integrity that she's a nobody. Because when I was on Get Gotti, she doesn't know anybody. I'm talking about other big podcasters, that were trying to discredit me on a regular basis because they're male and I'm female. Mark Ryder happened to call in. Oh.
Well, it's funny. As soon as you said that, that came out.
Yeah. Mark Ryder happened to call in while I was doing someone's podcast. And if anybody knew Mark Ryder as you, he was very close to John Gotti. He was one of John Gotti's associates. So Mark verified she was around all of us. She knew all of us. And then, because people were going, we don't know her. We never heard of her. Truthfully, you're not supposed to hear about you if you're in the streets. You don't want to be heard about back then. You don't want to be noticed back then, But I was arrested for the RICO with 22 organized crime guys. And I had been around John, through Mark Ryder. And they were questioning my credibility, like they've done with you. Like people have called you a liar. They were calling me a liar.
Well, I took Mark on the run. When he left, we went to Disney World, actually, of all places in Florida, me and his son. And then we left him just before Greg got killed. And then I took him to California with a woman, Rrok. And we left him in California. We set him up in an apartment there, and I was going back and forth.
That whole family just had a really hard, road with everything. I mean, that was just very sad. It was even sad at the end how the government made him think for 3 years he was getting out. They made him think he was going to get home on a compassionate release. The guy did 36 years. And up until the end, the judge says no. Well, why didn't you say no 3 years ago?
Yeah.
You gave hope to the kids, the grandkids, the ex-wife. Yeah. So, they had been through a lot. And I spoke to Mark right before he passed. And it amazes me. I was telling my son today that up until the end, he was, I guess, years ago, he came to terms with I'm never getting out. So I think he was always good with, always happy, always asking about how I'm doing, how are my kids, how are my grandkids. He always was concerned about everybody else. And here you are, dying in prison.
Well, he was always a big influence for me growing up. I've said it over the years in different shows. And, they can say what they want now that he's passed. He wasn't a danger to be let out. He wasn't a violent guy. He did what he did for a living. He moved drugs, but he wasn't going to go kill anybody or hurt anybody or have him killed. But to move on real quick, I want to say hello to Toby. He's here, your son.
We got Toby TNT sitting in the background here. I may chime in from time to time just to juice this up a little bit, but just wanted to say hello.
And on to my left is a fellow Albanian.
What's going on? What's going on?
Give your
John. My name is Rrok. I'm also Albanian. I come from Kosovo. Live here in the States. My Instagram is I am Rrok. I actually have a podcast as well. which is why I wanted to meet John. This is the first time I'm actually meeting John. So in the future, I'd love to have him on DGXM podcast. It's called Don't Gotta Explain Myself podcast.
I like that. That'll
yeah.
definitely be on that.
So I definitely got to get you on there, but it's an honor to be here, man. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is pretty cool for me. What I do is I represent, the Albanian community, everything from, like I was an artist myself, so anything political, anything joke-wise, anything just fun towards Albanian, I try to spread that information to everybody because I think we have a very special and unique background and culture, which you know because you're from there. But yeah, that's my mission. I just want everybody to remember who we are and what we are. So that's my goal. So
Yeah, that's
why
good.
I'm here.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
Yeah, man. But it's pretty cool that I get to meet you, and it's interesting for me as an outsider kind of looking into the types of lives you guys had, and it's very interesting to me because you only hear it in stories, you hear it in movies, you hear it on...
Well, you got it on your arm. Show everybody what you got on
I got a
your
hitman, and I'm over here meeting an actual hitman, so this is crazy to me. I got this because a favorite wrestler of mine, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah.
Best there is, best there was, the best there ever will be. When I started my music thing, I said, when I start today, I'm going to be the best there is, best there was, the best there ever will be. So I got it tattooed on me, and I said, you know what? There we go, Hitman.
Hitman.
I had a shirt on that I used to wear that said Hitman. People used to think, was this idiot wearing this shirt?
Yeah.
But it was from two Albanian brother singers that I did. I was featured in a song with them, and they gave me as a gift, it was Hitman and Roller.
You got to roll with it.
Yeah, so they gave me the shirt, and I used to wear the shirt. And people say, I go, no, the shirt's about music. It's not about...
If we had to worry about all the things that are said about us, forget about it. I don't pay attention. I really don't.
Well, a lot of guys like Joe Rogan, he says it. He says he doesn't read the comments because they abuse him.
Life moves on.
He's one of the hottest podcasters around.
Well, I try to interact with the people that are nice. I try to, interact with the comments, with the audience. But I'm not going to respond to some moron that knows nothing of our background. No. That how do you lie about, being arrested and a contract out on you? You don't lie about that stuff. It's documented.
But I sometimes engage. Like somebody said that, I go, well, I guess they put me on America's Most Wanted, International Most Wanted by Interpol. But I don't know why they did it. Maybe I don't know. These idiots are writing, but you know what? Once in a while, you do catch yourself like, what am I writing?
No, I won't even respond to them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lower myself with these morons.
And especially if you have a big page and you're risking getting your page banned, it's come on.
What I think also, a lot of men, I find, have very fragile egos when they see a woman like me that was in the streets. Like John knows, I know all these people. I ran with all these people. And they probably don't have the castañas that I've had, so they try to come in and go, oh, she's a woman. That's not true. But there's, women that, for no other reason, I had to support my kids. I got involved in the streets. My husband was incarcerated on a big case. Everybody in the family, we used to call my family women without men because all the men were incarcerated. So... I went out on the streets and unfortunately, it affected my kids. I got arrested and the whole thing that happened. But you don't lie about that.
There's a lot of keyboard tough guys out there in 2024. I mean, they could hide behind the computer all day and night.
Toby, but I got to tell you a funny story. And then we can move on to a show. So I have a guy, big fat guy from Erie, PA. That's harassing me. Right? So he's writing on my pages, but my cellmate back in the day was James Perry. He got 27 years for bank robbery. So I know a couple. I know his cousin stays in touch with me, a couple of people. So I said, this guy's from PA. I got to reach out and find somebody that knows the guy. They didn't know the guy, but they knew his daughter. So I contact the daughter. She gets on the phone with me. And the daughter was very nice, actually. She had a kid or two or something. We were talking. I says, I got to talk to you about something. I said, I'm going to write a couple of things on your page. I says, and then after, I'm going to call you back. And then she called, I call her back and we start talking. I says, do you believe that your father's harassed me? And I start showing everything to father. So she's got to be kidding me. Are you sure it's my father? So I says, don't talk. I'm going to call your father now. Right? So we three-way the father. Right? I don't know if she gave me the number. But anyway, we get the number. We call the father. And he doesn't know she's on the phone. And she's listening to him. And then she finally steps in. And she goes, what the F is wrong with you? I can't believe this is my father. I'm so embarrassed.
Wow.
And then he went on, and then he's like, he goes, and then she starts abusing him. you never got into a fight in your life. You know, she said, saying, you're talking like, what would make you
Yes.
get on somebody's page you don't know? And he was like, sounded like he was going to cry. He was really upset. And she's like, I kept apologizing for him. And she goes, these are like this people that I make fun of, like sick people. That's my own father doing this. He's a grown man. He's like, I think he was like 67, 68 years old. Anyway, after he was finished, she broke him down so bad I didn't have to say anything.
Good.
And I said to him, I go, you got to really feel like a jackass, disgrace with what you're doing and embarrassing your
I don't
daughter.
know what it is. Is it jealousy that I don't know really.
Maybe they're just
Do you
bored.
get
They
a lot
wanna
of
be-
I get
Some
a
people
lot
are
of
just
hate.
bored. You know what the best thing is? They say the best answer is no answer because it just drives them outrageous.
But you want to know
Yeah.
something? I raised 3 sons that are men.
Yeah.
I never could imagine my sons trying to abuse a woman.
No, I
never
could never- I could
verbally.
never see that
you
either.
don't even know this woman. I'm a grandmother.
But that's what it is. It's the screen. It's like a dog. You ever seen a dog behind a fence? As soon as you open that fence, it stops barking.
Well, that's the Albanian saying. You could say it in Albanian. You know how to say it in Albanian.
I mean, like Toby,
I forget
you
the
say
term
it
in
all the
Albania,
time.
to be
You go,
honest with you,
What kind of
but-
men are these men?
You know, they got the dogs that keep barking and
You
it's
know,
never going to
yeah.
stop.
They're
That's
not
all it
men.
is.
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, they're not men. But I got to tell you guys something. Like, if it's funny, I laugh. So I read some of the comments, and if it's funny, I'm laughing. But
No, I laugh at some of
Some
it
of
too.
them are
Some
so
of it is funny,
stupid.
but it's
They're
all
so
right.
stupid.
And it's such a run-on sometimes, too. It could be, all right, same comments. You get, like...
You know, when you have
becomes-
shows like him and I have been on, I've been on 60 Minutes, which is one of the most reputable news teams
it's
ever.
huge.
You cannot get on shows like that, or they have to vet you. They go back and check to see who they are, where'd she come from. They talk to the prosecutors or the lawyers or whatever. I mean, when I did even get Gotti, they called up Bruce Cutler. Yes, she knew Gotti very well. These morons, these half a men, I call them, like typing tough guys that want to fight with women. It's insane.
It's just... I don't know.
I think it's just boredom on their part. They want to feel part of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they want to feel like they know more.
Yeah.
I deal with it a lot too, especially me with posting Albanian things. I get a lot of other cultures in the area that are constantly posting their
Really?
propaganda and stuff. And I'm like, guys, you're on my page.
Right. Get
Like,
off my page.
Why are you on my page? It's
Right.
fully pushed towards Albanians. It's like, come on. But now you know as who are the haters, who are the
Right,
problematic
right.
people. So I just kind of let them embarrass themselves, you know? So you got to just let them do that.
Yeah, well, they do it, man. I'm on a black man's page. I'm the blackest white guy you know, right? That Josh knows. I'm like my sisters make fun of me. They said my whole life. It's just all my stores, all my friends. So, people hate us, man. They don't know how to just relax and joke and take it in stride. I don't know why. Just like they got to be missing something.
Just
in
try
their
to
life.
imagine how many of those people are actually going to say what they type to you in your face.
They're not.
They're not going to. Well,
They're not.
They wouldn't be in a position on the phones
They're not.
on
Yeah.
the
Right.
keyboard like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's why it's crazy.
You know, the series, like I always say that, I do a lot of stuff. I was just with Mike Bickings. I do MMA stuff for him in Valley Forge. I was just out there and great guy, but I'm sitting with a lot of fighters, right? So when we go in and I say to him, all these guys that are fighting, they're tough guys. Nice guys, but tough guys. They don't have no ego because they're really doing it. So, you don't see them, that insecurity. When I had Dennis on the show, you see Dennis was just on recently in a UFC fight, Albanian, but he's a tough guy. So, of course, they're gentlemen. They're low-key. Your brother's tough.
He
Keith-
just said to me in the car, what'd you say about Keith's hands? Listen to this.
So one of the he gets trained by a professional fighter.
Every week. 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week. This kid's
Professional-
training since he's a kid.
Oh, awesome.
No, he's very good. I
very-
had the videos of him.
Yeah,
He's
but
trained various world champions,
Right.
including guys in MMA, so on and so forth. Keith apparently is one of the hardest hitting guys that he's ever had to hold the pads
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
And I believe
To
it, 'cause
knock you
I
out.
hold the pads for Keith, and Keith hits like a tank.
Yeah, well, Keith's a big guy and he's
What-
strong and he
what
does
weight
know how to
class?
use his hands. Yeah.
What
He's a heavyweight. He's a big kid.
Oh,
yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
But he's fast. And the thing about
But he's
fighting
quiet
is he's very
and a gentleman.
well. That's the
Quiet ones
point.
are the dangerous.
You would never know it. You would never know this. Quiet, laid
No, I would
back.
know because I know.
You know. Yeah.
Nah, he knows. He's got speed. It's listen.
He's like, "Duh-duh-duh-duh-duh-duh-duh."
He's a very fast, heavy-handed guy. Whether you have a heavy hand or not, it's natural. He has a heavy hand.
Yeah, it's
but he's
awesome.
very quick. It speeds everything. The snap of the punch. So
And then you got these morons that are trying to abuse his mother.
people don't know any better until they run into somebody.
Yeah.
They just so. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm still trying to picture the fact that people do that, and I mean it's gonna happen.
They
all the time.
do. Men. No, not women, men.
I know. It's
But
gonna,
you do a lot of joking on yours, right?
Yeah,
From
see,
what I looked at some of your stuff.
and even when I reply to people, I reply to them in a way where it's like it's so humble, where then they just feel so dumb for even
Right.
commenting to me, and I'm like,
Right.
there you go. You can just
Yeah.
feel like an idiot to yourself, you know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, one of them I said, your mother raised a real gentleman.
Yeah, that's all you got to say.
Yeah.
If they really just look past that, then you're not a man. You know, it's
No.
weird.
I got a girl coming on. She was away in prison, and Selena. We ran into each other. I don't know, about 2 years ago. She wrote a book,
Mm-hmm.
and she wrote a book about being in prison. She does a lot. She's actually very busy politically in different areas and things. And she worked on a jail thing about getting people to be able to vote after prison.
Nice.
And she's done some good things. So she's going to come on next show. But what I'm getting at is, we were talking off camera about what is it for our families to be in, when we get jammed up, what it leaves them as a female. You got a better perspective, to be honest.
Yeah. It really is. That's what made me go out on the streets, because when my husband got arrested, there was no source of income, and I didn't have an education to go out and support the kids. But just by doing just that alone, I think that it really affects the kids, where the kids have abandonment issues. Like, they grow up with these abandonment issues if they don't get help for it. And because it's a loss, one day your dad's here and one day he's not. So it also causes, like, I've had problems with a couple of the boys, not Toby, but, them getting arrested or rebellious as teenagers because the father wasn't in the house, and they try to test the waters and stuff like that. So, with a dad not being in the household and not being there, and that's in any culture. It's not just the Italian culture.
That's
That hits every realm of the issues of how kids are going to stray the wrong way. And fortunately, we say, thank God, thank you, Jesus, the boys, all my kids turned out really good. So it was the teenage years I had a lot of problems with. But you have to rule with an iron fist, and that life, a lot of the kids even want to emulate those types of personalities and be a tough guy and go out and think the tough guy is going to, win over on the day, as far as, being in the streets and making easy money and being, going out and fighting, batting, shooting. But at the end of the road, that's going to get you, as we all know, in no good.
Like my son.
Yeah.
I have a
Like
son that just got home.
And he is such a nice kid if you meet him. How's he doing, Jimmy?
Now he's doing good, finally. I mean, but he's done about
Jimmy
7 years
Yeah,
already.
Jimmy had a rough road.
like, how does that make you feel as a parent?
Oh, it's terrible. Listen.
He was devastated when it happened. I remember you called me. He was so
Because
broken.
I remember
over
hearing
Jimmy.
your story, like your dad didn't want you in that life, and then like
Rebellious. It's rebellious. You think you know
like, what do you
everything.
feel about that?
Well, the thing is, he was 100% right. He shot a guy.
Yeah.
He didn't know the guy. The guy had a problem with somebody else. He just happened to be sitting in the building. He lived in the building the guy had a problem with. So he was 100% right. The problem is what I told him. Why didn't you just go up in your room, mind your business? Well, he threatened me. And I says, yeah, and look what happened. As soon as you shot him, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, the guy's a gangster. He gave him up, gave my son up. So, that was the first thing that happened. And the second thing that happened is he went to jail and the guy recovered and he went to the beach. So I says, well, he's on the beach. He's going out with his girlfriend somewhere and you're in prison. So who won? So, I give good perspective to young guys. Like, I get it because I did what you did. It's just not worth it.
And then I find also with this, I have a lot of guys that are good friends of mine that did a lot of prison time. And a lot of them have told me, I've not talked to you about it, John, but you could give me your input. A lot of them tell me that it's very hard for them when they come out to have a relationship with a female. It's just very hard for them. They don't know how to be accountable to what the woman is expecting of them. They don't know how, like, the women are expecting you to be a certain way, and that's just not who they are. They're rough around the edges. They're used to being by themselves. Sometimes they want to just go and be alone and not have to talk and not have to get into any banter. So a lot of them, just have problems in relationships. I don't know with you, John, because we never discussed it, but
I think what happens is when you're in solitary confinement, where most of us are for years, you get used to that solitude. Even though at the beginning it's hard, that solitude of being alone. So when you don't want to hear nothing and shut everybody out, you're almost going to that solitary
Right.
confinement mindset. That's one thing. The second thing is it's hard after, and I use this a lot. And I say, you're not my ward.
right,
So,
right,
you've been told what to do, what time to eat, you're regulated, when to go to the bathroom, when to turn the light out, when the lights are allowed on, when, you don't want to hear nothing from anybody after that. You want to own your own life.
exactly.
So it's very difficult. And the part of, after spending so many years gone, to adapt to a family situation
Oh, it's hard.
is not the same. And your kids also look at you as a friend, not as a father anymore, because you were gone for the children years.
Exactly.
So, which caused a lot of abandonment issues. Like you said, my daughter had it
Mm-hmm.
and, used to arguing before she passed away and, you didn't love me, you left me. And, even though they're reasoning as an adult now, they understand, but it still hurt them and they didn't know how to deal with it at the time. And, unfortunately, I'm not the only one this happens to. It happens to
No,
everybody that
my
goes to
ex-husband,
prison.
the same thing when he came home. I wanted to try to give him an opportunity to bond with his kids because they were so young when he left. They were like, Brittany was 16 months old and Keith was like,
Yeah, they probably
maybe
had no
quite-
connection at all.
No. So I figured, you know what, that was my out just to do that for them, to make them know. But it was hard on them. It was hard on him. He didn't know how to be a parent. They don't know how to relate to him as a parent because for 11, 12 years, you weren't there. Now they're 14 or 15 and 13. They're not going to listen to you. You've never been there. You've never tucked them in. You don't know what their favorite color is. You don't know what story they like. You don't know anything about them.
Favorite sports team or something.
So it really
Yeah.
causes a big, big, big wedge. I find now my ex-husband is a better grandfather to my grandkids than he was to his kids because he's there.
Yeah.
He's accountable. He comes, I think he sees them several times a week. He stepped up to the plate and he's a really good grandfather to my grandchildren. And that's the best he can do. And, the kids have a good relationship with him now, to whatever that relationship could be. But we all say he's a great grandfather, right, Toby? I mean, John's there all the time for the kids. We call him up, John, Brittany's got 3. We need help. Pick up this one or take this one. So,
Well, it's easy. You know what it is? And for us guys that did a lot of time, I'm pushing 20 years in prisons almost. You got guys that talk, and I hear it all the time from these guys giving bad advice to young kids. That's why I'm always giving advice. Do the right thing, take a trade, go to work, do something, stay off the street. And I sincerely mean it because I don't know any idiot would want their family on the street because they know it is. But it's easy for the guys to do skid bids. Skid bids when they're doing 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 5 years.
Yeah.
Not doing no real
No.
time. But then you got guys like us that were doing
Right.
facing life sentences, death penalty, dying in
Yeah.
prison. I got Oscar Lugo I always talk about. He's a
can't even imagine
Puerto Rican a friend of mine, and
crazy.
I'm trying to help him get out. He got life. You got the Duca brothers, the Albanians, they got life. I try to talk and help them to get out. I got a friend of mine, Eddie Recker, that talks to me on a regular basis. So I got guys, Benny is another guy. These guys got crazy time in jails. So to be a father, and these ain't skid bids. These are serious bids these guys are doing. And it's just not worth it. You don't have a second life. But the problem is when you're younger, you don't think like this. As you get older, you start understanding, hey, I want to be like you. I mean, you're a perfect example, or Toby, to have the intelligence to understand, let me do something right. Let me not do something stupid because life goes by like this. And then you cheat yourself out of a marriage and a family life and kids. And now you're stepping in to be the grandfather of kids. And so because you missed your kids growing up.
And overall, men are rough around the edges to begin with. They're just rough around the edges compared to a woman.
Yeah.
So now you have a man that has been incarcerated for many years around all men. which are very rugged. So then you expect him to come home and get in a relationship with a woman or your wife or your kids. It's very hard on them.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
Because the woman doesn't understand. It's like, you know, to be in prison, you can't show that soft side. You know that.
And,
Yeah.
and what was it like when you first kind of started getting into the game of it all?
Crime?
Yeah.
I was young. But I come from a background of that.
Yeah.
I mean, John knows my brother. You know
Yeah.
my brother John.
Yeah, yeah.
He knows my family. He knows my ex.
But
you
like
know.
that moment where you knew you had to kind of like
Well, I
step
just
up
was
as in,
always.
like,
I just.
Well, her family wasn't like there's certain guys that they're aggressive family.
They're very
They're
aggressive.
not a soft. You know,
No.
they weren't out
They're
there
killers. I'll
bookmaking.
put it
Yeah.
bluntly, they're killers.
Yeah.
And my mom, I'll put this out there. My mom told my brother, I think he was 18 or 19 at the time. She said to him, this is the kind of family I came from. Put the bullet in the back of his, look at his face. Put the bullet in the back of his neck and make sure you kill him that way.
oh wow.
And that's how we were raised. So
crazy.
I was raised
Yeah.
very rugged.
But see, I've heard of these stories because where
But
we come from too.
so
it's
now when I
a lot
had
of
to get
stuff
in the
like this.
streets, I will look you dead in the eye. I wasn't afraid of anybody. No one. You know why? Because I knew the streets. I know the streets. I know how the streets roll. I know who you could trust, who you can't trust. And I had behind me, when my husband went away, there was money owed to me, but I had my brothers out that were going to watch my back, that my brothers were going to collect.
Some people don't have a chance in life. There's a guy that was my cellmate, Jose Montoya, who was from Honduras. He was about 12 years old when his father gets killed. Jose becomes an assassin, right? In Honduras. One of the meekest, quiet guy, great football player. I'm talking about soccer now, football player. And he used to clean my cell. He'd hang out. He would just basically guard my cell. When I was in, I was like, Jose, man, you don't got to sit here. No, take your nap. Don't worry. But anyway, I didn't know the extent of how dangerous he was at the time. And, you know, as we get to know each other. But to get to what happened to him, his father gets killed. He had no choice. He got thrown in a life. His grandmother gave him a shotgun at 12 years old and said, go there and kill the guy that killed my son, killed your father. And he killed him.
Wow.
And that's how he started. And then he went into stories how he ended up getting blasted. He lives. But then when he was leaving jail, right, I used to send money to his family in Honduras and Xbox, and he had no money. He worked Unicor to send money. Back then you can work Unicor to change it. He made a couple $100 a month. Anyway, we got very friendly. So he's leaving, and he's going to R&D, right? He's going to walk out of prison. And he's not acting. He's like it's nothing. So he goes to R&D, and his other buddy is another guy from Honduras. And when he's leaving, he laughs, he looks at me. He goes, let's pray he goes out, but I don't think so. He came back, and they hit him with another indictment. He had like 16 bodies, is what I'm getting at. He knew he was going nowhere. So when he came back, he says, I was praying that maybe I can get away somehow, but I didn't think so. He says, now anybody bothers you, I kill him right away for you. Don't worry. And he was, listen, one of the nicest guys, but, you know, you're in that life. He had no choice
You
in
know,
that
and
life.
I always say the streets are not meant for the weak, because if you're weak, you can't survive in the streets.
Yeah.
You just can't. There's no way you're going to ever stay in the streets, be productive in the streets, and make something of yourself in the streets, which meaning making money or having the ability to have respect in the streets, because respect is a big word in the streets.
And what gets you that respect? Like what?
Well, if somebody owed me money, that's basically why I got arrested, because they heard me on wiretap. A guy owed me $20,000 up in Connecticut, actually. And
Did you know him?
no, and I actually, Joe Florenza. But I didn't know the government put him up to this, and the government told him what to say, because they say, if you say this, she's going to come for you. They knew.
Yeah.
So my brother calls and says, he owed me $20,000 of my money. He says, he's saying he don't have it. So then I say on the phone, I don't give a F what he said. Go up there, get 3 other guys with you. I don't care if you have to tie him up. I don't care what you do to him. Split his head open in front of his wife, who's ever there, and get my effing $20,000. And that's all I care about. Call me when you have it. Boom. And I was arrested.
Wow.
I think you to answer your question, you learn like anything else. You're a good podcaster.
That's why I asked the questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yes.
an interviewer myself, so for me to
Yes.
kind of learn about this
And you
is
should.
very interesting.
And you
know?
should.
It's like anything. You got to learn to different qualities on the street to get respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, one is, be a man of your word on the street, even though a lot of guys aren't. Two, when you get screwed over, to make sure you handle it. And that means whatever way you have to handle it to make sure everybody else in that area understands you're not going to get beat.
Yeah.
But I also think this is that, so we'd say that was $20,000. If it was $20, it's the point.
It's the principle.
If
It's the
you,
principle.
if you allow someone to not pay you, then the other guy that owes you 100 or 200 can say, oh, she let him go.
Like we got bear sauce, so
Yeah.
for us, it's like you
Yeah.
break
You know,
that. It's like
so
you're
you
cooked.
can't allow, if you're going to be on the streets, like I said, it's not for the weak. You have to
Yeah.
know how to go about getting that and having a crew behind you that is going to go to bat for you.
Yeah.
But then, lo and behold, we were all arrested.
Yeah.
So
And it's the type of crime you're doing. If you're doing low life shit, no one's ever going to respect you or like you. So, there's also the moral bound of what you'll do on the street. If you're going to be that guy that's going to go beat up a girl in a store, no, of course nobody's going to like you.
Yeah.
If you're the guy that's going to kill the guy to beat up the
Those are
girl,
just like
of course
petty-
they're
Yes.
going to like you.
yes,
So
exactly.
you got to draw. Where's your moral bound in the street?
It's like
Yeah.
it's like a what is it, anti-hero or anti-villain like they're making with all the superhero movies now, where it's like the bad guys, the good guys.
Well, I think that, not to change the subject, but I think that's what made people get really outraged when they saw the video on P. Diddy kicking and beating the girl
Yeah.
in the hotel.
No, that's wild.
Like, that's like, not,
Well, there is no, like I said,
I mean, come on. You
I
can't do
actually
that.
said this I did a video. I said, listen, I don't know what he's guilty of or innocent.
Right.
But
Like,
I
when
know
you
that
see
everybody
that-
sees that in their mind he's already guilty because there's
Right.
no excuse. I don't care what the girl did. You can't,
No.
you
no.
can't do that to her. I mean, it's one thing I see guys and girls get mad at
Everybody
each other. They
fights,
slap
they-
each other,
yes.
this and that. But throwing her down, dragging her by her hair,
and
kicking her in the stomach,
in
kicking her in the
stomach
face.
and
Yeah.
that was
continuously.
crazy.
Yeah, stomping on her. No,
Come
no, no,
on,
you can't.
that's no good. That right there, people were outraged over that.
That was a punk move. And this ain't right to say, but I'd like to do to him what he did to her. That was
Literally.
such a punk move he
Yeah.
pulled.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has that same feeling. But the problem now is after seeing that, you can't unsee it. And people think he's guilty of other things that maybe, and I'm going to give you the other side, because,
Alleged.
that maybe he didn't do the other things. But all of a sudden,
don't know.
everybody says he is guilty because everybody saw him do that. Now,
you got to be kind of crazy to do
it's
that.
hard, yeah.
like-
But it's hard to, give him and I'm giving him the benefit of doubt of a fair trial, saying, well, once
Yeah.
you've seen it, you can't unsee that.
Like that, he's definitely guilty for. I don't know
Right.
what he
But
Well,
I
that
think,
he is.
but,
I don't
know
but
what
I
he did
think
for
you
all the
know
other
better
things.
than anybody. Like I know, when the federal government comes for you, they probably have a really strong case against you.
Especially if they
Because the federal government's not a state case; it's a federal case.
It's 98.5%
you
of
know
conviction
that.
rate.
That's
And they
what they
rated
have,
him.
a 98
98.5%
point
of conviction.
conviction rate.
So if you go to trial, don't expect
and
to
he's a
come
billionaire.
Exactly. So with that alone, knowing the government, you have to know, John, they have a lot of good evidence against him.
Oh yeah, especially him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't, because with this whole thing that happened, they didn't go really, when they raided his house, they didn't arrest him then. They raided the house. Then they came back.
And arrested
Then
him.
they, right. They have a strong case against him.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say it could be a cover up for the whole Epstein thing too. So I don't know. You never know.
I
as
just
to
did
what's
an
going on.
Epstein. Josh doesn't talk too much off camera, but Josh just heard I just did a little thing, and I'm trying to compare the reasons why Puff is getting treated different than Epstein. I'm talking about the client lists and different things. Like, why is some names coming out here already, but in Epstein there weren't? And I brought up why.
Yeah, it's
because
crazy.
one of the guys that were associated with Epstein was actually head of the CIA, Burns.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I'm not saying he's involved with them. I'm just saying they don't want their names mentioned, everything, but it's too late. You're involved with the guy somewhere in business and all
Allegedly, he has a guy who's part of the label as well, who's like best friends with Epstein too, or something like that. I think I seen a video, but it's all kind of tied in.
Watch part 3.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
there
do
you
part
go.
3.
So it's all tied in somehow. It's a crazy Hollywood and all that is all crazy stuff to me.
So what's your favorite thing that you do in your podcast on?
Well, for me, so far, like I've interviewed Dennis as well, UFC fighters. I'm really trying to push everybody that's honestly like entrepreneurs here, people that are doing something positive with their lives and, trying to push that whole agenda to the world. Because a lot of people think,
I'm thinking bad things while you're talking to me right now. I got my bat put away because I see the LA Dodger hat in your Albanian. I'm like, uh-oh.
bring the bats out. No, I actually wear this because of the AL for Albania, but even though it's kind of backwards,
Yeah.
but still. But I try to push anything that's positive. I try to have the world see us for something great. As you're kind of on the positive thing now too. And I see you're having talks with a lot of people, so I'm trying to push that whole agenda, man, because people are always looking at us. I don't know. The movies and all this, it's always something negative. But then you go to our country, and it's the complete opposite. Our people treat you.
I do have to say this
respect.
though. I'm very impressed with John I'm learning from him just what you put out on Instagram and the research you do with politics. He really knows his stuff.
No, I hear his stuff all the time.
He definitely knows his stuff, and he puts the stuff out there that's facts.
Yeah.
He doesn't just talk off the top of his head.
Yeah.
So
Better
very
be-
gotta
knowledgeable.
hope Trump is going to win this election.
Well, you better
because
be
I know
careful.
he is.
Josh has a gun over there, and he might shoot me if we keep this up. You know what? I'm going to tell you something.
We might get Josh. What is he?
I'm going to tell you something off camera, on camera, right? And Josh knows this. You know what the good thing about me and him are? Is this is what America was about. We should be able to discuss it back and forth.
You gotta be open-minded.
and,
You have
and not
to.
close each other
Yeah.
out. It's okay to have your opinion. The problem I'm having is they're trying to stop opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Especially
when
with
you can
Instagram.
talk honestly back and forth, there's nothing wrong with that. That's America.
But that's why there's different parties,
Yeah.
because people have different opinions,
Yeah.
and people have the choice to vote for whoever they want. I shouldn't have to get mad at a friend, or a friend get mad at me who my vote is. It shouldn't.
Shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't really
It
matter.
shouldn't dictate your friendship, your relationship
No,
with family
but
or anything.
in today's world, it does.
Because everybody's so emotionally invested into everything.
Yeah.
It's-
Today, and truthfully,
Well, it's the media's fault. The media
either
does
party
it.
doesn't know who the hell you are.
Yeah.
They don't even care.
Right.
They care less. But I mean, see, for me, I was looking at somebody completely different. I was looking at Robert Kennedy.
Right.
I thought he could have been
Well, I
a
like
great
Robert
candidate.
Kennedy.
I
as
like him
well.
too.
I like Robert Kennedy.
Or at
too.
least to be somehow with Trump, which he's doing now. I think that's
Right.
pretty cool too, because I think that guy actually cares about Americans as well.
No, he
So-
does. He does.
So you could genuinely hear, it,
Robert
especially,
Kennedy's a genuine guy.
especially on his Rogan podcast. I loved him on there, so he was great.
I'm looking at my phone's blowing up right here. I'm expecting a jail call, and I wanted
Oh,
to
okay.
put him
Are we
through
good?
whenever
Or
we
you
turn.
wanna
No, it's
close?
not him. Yeah. So I was waiting for that to go, but the next show that we'll have him on.
Okay, so we closing this one out?
No, unless
Okay.
you guys getting bored on the air over there.
Nah,
No, I just don't know how long your show goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, but
How long we running for? Yeah.
Yeah, because
All right, we're gonna wrap it. Anybody have something final? Say, Toby, you got something to say?
God bless. Best to you. Catch you next time.
I always thank you, Jesus, Andrea Giovino, YouTube, subscribe.
thank you, Jesus. I like that. I like that. Guys, subscribe to DGXM Podcast, and you can follow me at I Am Rrok. It's IMRROK. John, I hope to have you on my show soon as well, too, for all the Albanians.
Without a doubt, I'll be on there. And the final of something positive with everybody. Don't live in the negative, live in the positive. Do something positive for the next person. And leave anything that happened yesterday behind, because you can't go chase it anyway. Just keep moving forward. Hit my subscribe button. Follow my show, John Elite. Thanks, everybody.
Peace out. I'm going to change.
It was great.
Yeah.
It's good, right?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
As long as it ain't boring, it ain't.